All right, so today we're talking about properties of exponents. This chart here is very important. Okay, we will reference this multiple times, and so that's what you want to be looking at whenever you do this. Okay. Also, whenever you work on this, you want to look and you want to reference the previous things. Okay. So, example 1 is raised to the power of 0. What is the definition? Right. Evaluate. Why is it 1? Because the definition of a 0 exponent, which is this right here, right? Anything raised to the power of 0 is 1, okay? Anything raised to the power of 0 is 1 as long as a is not 0. So anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. Negative 3 minus 4. So this is the definition of a negative exponent. Anytime that you have a negative exponent, it becomes in the denominator with 1 on top, right? So if you have 5, negative 2, that becomes 1 over 5 squared, right? Nothing else changes. It just becomes now in the denominator. And so now that's what happens here. Negative 3 to the 4th power, that's negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. So that's actually 9 times 9, which is 81. Okay. Here in example 2, actually here, this is a whole bunch of different examples. This is more than just an example 2. This is 8 different examples on how to do this, okay? So please make sure that whenever you're working on this bottom part here that you are referencing these examples. This is a great set of examples for you to follow because you're going to have to do all these different properties of exponents. All right. So we've already talked about anything to the power of 0 is 1, right? Anything to the power of 0 is 1. All right, so this is a negative exponent, and it's also to the power of 1. So a negative exponent, it becomes the reciprocal, right? You turn it into a fraction, and anything to the power of 1 is that number. Does it have power of 1 up here? No, it doesn't. So power of 1, let's add that. Power of 1, and look, there's even a space for it. Power of 1 is anything to the first power is that number, as long as a doesn't equal 0. Well, even if a does equal 0, that still works. So a to the first power, anything the power of 1, it equals that number, right? So this would be 1 over 8. Again, this is the negative exponent, so it'd be 1 over 4 to the third. I'll let you work it out from there. Anything to the power of 0 is 1 over 3 negative 2. And then that flips, right? Because it's a negative, so it flips. So that would be 3 over 2. And you don't write over 1, and so that ultimately would be 9, right? 4 to the third is 16 times 4, which is 64, I believe. All right, so when you multiply like bases, that's what it says up here is the product of power. When you multiply, right? When you multiply like bases, you add the exponents, right? So that's 3 plus 4, which is 7. 2 to the 7 is 28, okay? Again, this is a negative, so that means that it will come up here. 12y to the first power, that's going to be a 1. So 12 times 1 is just 12. X to the 7th, 12x to the 7th. When you multiply, when you raise a power by a power, you multiply the bases, z to the 8th power. When you raise an entire thing, right? When you raise an entire number by a power, everything gets a power, right? It's like Oprah. You get a power and you get a power, and then you simplify. When you are dividing like bases raised to a power, you subtract the exponents. Multiplying like bases, you add the exponents, right? And then that would be 8 and then you would subtract 8 minus 5, just like you have here. Everything gets the 3, right? Everything here for f, everything gets the 3. So you have 6 to the third, m to the third, n to the third, 216. 6 to the third is 216, m third, n third. This is all multiple steps, right? You can go ahead and just work it out. You don't have to like flip it all out. You can say, all right, so this is 10 over 5, right? And this is going to be x 6 minus 3, and then y negative 2 minus 1. Okay, and so that will equal 2x to the third, y to the negative third. And so then I'll move that y down, and that gives me 2x to the third over y to the third. So it's just following your skills, following your steps, doing these as you come across them. All right. So same thing, like for instance, number 19. Let's look at number 19. Okay, so this is going to equal, I have an x on top, x on bottom, so I'm subtracting. So that's 1 minus 4, and then y negative 2 minus a negative 3, right? Because you subtract when you're dividing. So that would be x minus 3 plus, that would be y to the first. So this is y over x to the third. Again, look at what you have, look up here, and see what you do with it. That is how you work exponents. Exponents is memorization. You have to memorize this. Okay, you have to memorize this. That is how you get to know how to do exponents, is by memorizing the properties of exponent. This is something you should have done in 8th grade. Definitely something you need to know for 9th grade, moving on and moving up. All right, thank you.